Honk, a Godzilla movie marathon where we're stomping through Godzilla's filmography. I'm Derek, and I've seen all the Godzilla movies.
And I'm Doug, and I've seen 4 Godzilla movies.
And we're talking about the first film in the Millennium era of Godzilla. We're going back to Y2K. It's the second ever Japanese reboot of the whole series. Also, the first film after America's attempt at their own Godzilla movie. We're going to talk about that. It is Godzilla 2000: Millennium. Also known as just Godzilla 2000 in America. They dropped that subtitle. And in Japanese, Gojira Nissen Miranaimu. Beautiful sounding title, I will say.
Yeah.
Released on Japan on December 11th, 1999, just before the actual millennium. Directed by Takao Okawara. Produced by Shogo Tomiyama. Written by Hiroshi Kashiwabara and Wataru Mimura. Special effects by Kenji Suzuki. And score by Takayuki Hattori. I don't think we've talked about any of those names yet on this podcast, so we'll dive into some of those.
Sure.
And just a fun fact, the Japanese tagline for this movie, on all the posters, very simple: witness a new era of Godzilla. Cool, simple, to the point.
All right.
The US tagline, however,
Oh, God.
get ready to crumble.
Stop.
Boo.
Boo.
Also, I watched the US trailer for it, and it has like a Rob Zombie song to Godzilla, like destroying stuff.
None of that surprises me for reasons I'm sure we'll get into.
No, especially in the year 2000 when like it came out in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, Doug.
Uh-huh.
What's your overall thoughts? Very different from the last two that we watched, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it is. And full transparency, we're doing 2 recordings for 2 different shows today, and Derek proposed doing the other one, and I was like, no, we need to talk about Godzilla 2000 because I just need to like speak to someone about it.
Yeah.
I'm like struggling to figure out how I feel about this movie because there's things I enjoy about it, then there's things I really don't like about it, and then between the Japanese version and the English version, because I watched both, there's like things that end up being better about one and not the other, and vice versa.
It's weird.
My thoughts are kind of everywhere. It's a weird one. I think if I had to say right now, and this could change over the course of the podcast in either direction, I would say that I don't think I'm a huge fan of this movie.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, I'm actually not really surprised by that, but
okay.
Sure.
I've tried every time we talk about one of these movies to stay away from any sort of aggregate review sort of scoring or anything like that. So or like any sort of critical reception or fan reception stuff. So I have no idea how anyone feels about any of these movies. So I always come in here a little nervous to be like, here's how I feel. But I do think this is one that is sort of kind of, we've only watched 4, but probably like middling for me. I think don't know how that'll change as we watch many, many more.
I think this is a weird one for a lot of people. I think because there are a lot of people who really like it. There's a lot of people who really don't like it. Yeah. And I think there's the majority of people are sort of like, and I think that I have some context for you that either will clarify it or might make you even more confused. I'm actually not sure, because I think what's funny is that the context in which we're watching it is different than like the reason that it was even made. We'll talk about that. But like you're watching it as sort of like, we're watching all of these sort of new like reboots, reinventions that jumpstart an era that are just like, the start of a new continuity, right? And like, so you're watching it in that context, and the last few that you watched them sort of like, well, how do you sequelize the original Godzilla for a new generation? And this was just sort of like, here's just fucking Godzilla 1999, bitches. Yeah. That's all it is, Yeah.
As I was watching it, I was like, I'm pretty certain Derek told me this was one of the sequels, but I can't for the life of me figure out how.
It's not clear in it. It's the only reason that it's like considered a sequel to the original is because of supplemental stuff.
Sure.
And books about the movie that it's sort of like, we went into it with the intention, this continuity, the original 1954 movie happened and nothing else. And it's sort of like, well, I mean, that's not reflected in this movie at all. And I will say that like, when I originally sort of crafted this initial theme, like for me, it was more sort of like getting a taste of each era. It just so happens that all of them technically are a sequel to the original Godzilla, but like honestly, in the Millennium series that this is part of, it's an anthology series.
Yeah.
So you're going to run into other movies in the series that are also sequels to the original Godzilla that I think are kind of more and better sequels to the original Godzilla than this movie is. This one just happens to be the first one in this era of weird anthology movies.
And that makes a lot of sense. And I feel like generally as an idea, I am like neutral on that. In many ways, I'm excited about that. In other ways, I'm sort of like, okay, cool. Like, let's see what happens. You know, so it being a very sort of its own thing, and then anything sort of in this era being their own individual things is exciting. I don't prefer it necessarily over a strong continuity. It just was weird to be like, I know there has to be something in here, and I think the only way that you really can kind of watch this movie and be like, yeah, I guess it's a sequel, is that everyone already knows about Godzilla. It's not like people need to learn what Godzilla is. It's just that Godzilla exists for and has for an undefined amount of time. So much so that there's this entire sort of underground network of people tracking this sort of stuff in a way that feels more than just like a conspiracy network, right? Like it feels like a independent scientific network. So that's kind of the only thing I can point to be like, yeah, there's clearly something before this story.
Yeah. Otherwise it really just like doesn't matter. And I think that the context for the movie, how the movie was made, I think kind of clarifies why it is the way that it is, you know. My experience with it, this is one of the ones that I have a strong memory of having seen it just like on TV casually, because I remember that that silver spaceship has always stuck out in my head for the longest time. But I never had like strong memories of my opinion of the movie. Just like, it's a Godzilla movie with a spaceship. I know that I've seen it. And when I watched for my like initial watch through of all the movies, I watched it in Japanese because that's what was available to me at the time. And I was kind of middling on it. I was sort of like, I think it's fun, but like, I don't know. At a certain point, I found it kind of tedious, and then it came out in theaters back in November. And I was like, a lot of people stick up for this movie, and I feel like there's so many elements of it that I do like that I'm hoping that maybe a theatrical experience will maybe like be more fun and I'll love it more. Sure. So I saw the Japanese version in theaters and was like, God damn it. Like I still like, I feel like I'm missing something with this movie. Like it's just not clicking with me. Last night, watched the American English cut on Hulu for the first time. I'd never seen the English cut before, which is usually the reverse. I think most Americans would have seen the American one first, because I think that was more easily accessible for the longest time until recently, and the Japanese version became more accessible. So seeing it in reverse, I watched the American version. I was like, this movie actually kind of fucking rips. I'm like having a great time. I really liked the American version, and I wasn't going into expecting that. I was sort of like, not dreading it, but I was sort of like, I know what I'm in for. And I'm not usually someone who feels like an alternate cut significantly improves the experience most of the time. But for me, this one, I just had a great time watching it this time.
I feel like I have thoughts on that, because what's interesting about watching these movies the way that I'm watching them is that I'm watching most of these movies for the first time in the context of like, I need to be paying attention and I need to be like thinking about the movie so that like I'm taking it in, right? Yeah. So things that I think are probably tedious about the first movie when you're just watching it for entertainment weren't really bothering me that much, because when they do the American cut, it's like fixing pacing stuff. There's like less lingering stuff, or they like take out some repetitive not even story beats, just like repetitive sort of shots, but that stuff wasn't bothering me too much the first time around because of how I was watching it. But the pacing is much better in the English cut. And I do think also the dialogue, I'm of two minds about the English dialogue. I do think the dialogue, as far as serving the narrative in the English cut, does a better job of like getting to the point, and not like leading you like beyond the point of where you should be, you know? Like a movie wants tension and it wants you to wonder about things, but I do think the Japanese cut sometimes has you wondering for so long that you're like, I don't know what's going on, you know?
Yeah, I agree with that.
The English cut takes some of those things and people say them earlier in the movie. So they just explicitly say like, this could be a UFO. Like, as opposed to, we have no idea what this is for, you know, an hour and 20 minutes or something. So that's I think, nice. Yeah. But some of the English dialogue is so cringy.
Like crap through a goose.
Oh my gosh. It's so like unnecessary. Like they wanted to add like an edge to it, which makes so much sense when you realize, I'm assuming this was like an American, specifically English cut. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They wanted to clearly add an edge to it. People are like just like slightly meaner to each other for no reason. It's like so weird. But the content of what they're saying serves the story. So that's where it's sort of odd for me, because I'm like, I wasn't super bothered, but I did watch this and I do recognize like it actually does kind of work better in a lot of ways in the second cut.
I think there's that. The sound design was also reworked a lot in the American cut too. Like there's more music is added. Like I think part of the thing that felt like would drag in the Japanese cut for me originally is that some of the monster fights would just be kind of done in silence, and the monsters wouldn't make much sound and there wouldn't be much background music. And the American version adds more roars. It changes Orga's roar to be like a more menacing one. Godzilla's roars, they actually like throw in some like roars from the 1998 movie randomly, but like it kind of weirdly works somehow. Like I don't know, it's just strange.
I was wondering about
louder.
That.
It's just a louder movie, and the thing is like normally like that's a common thing when you make an American version of something Japanese. It's sort of like, well, we're gonna fill out every ounce of silence with loud music and lots more dialogue, you know, make it bigger and everything. And usually that doesn't work, but I think like this Godzilla movie is such a like head empty action movie more than it is anything that's particularly thoughtful, that I think it serves the movie better if it is a more bombastic, louder, like tighter movie that's like maybe a little bit dumber and like just introducing you to concepts more quickly and not letting you wait and adding more sounds, but like makes it more fun in my opinion, because it's not a very tense movie, you know what I mean?
No, but what's weird is that like this movie clearly wants to be viewed as if it's saying something, so it's like, I don't think it's presenting itself necessarily as just an action movie, but like it kind of is. And that's sort of where I walk away from it being like, I don't know what metric to measure this by, because we've had this conversation, right? Like if something is just meant to be fun action, I'll judge it as fun action. If something is meant to be sort of commentary, I'll judge it on its commentary. If something's meant to be camp, then I judge it with that lens. But this one, I'm like, I think what you made is pretty different than what you thought you were making.
Maybe. I think that let's get into some of the production stuff, because I think that'll help. Because really the American side of it and the Japanese side of it, like we were talking about the different cuts of it, but like the relationship between our two film industries is a big reason this movie exists and is the way that it is, really, in so many ways. So like in the, right before this movie, there was famously an American Godzilla movie that came out. Basically what the idea was like in 95, Toho was going to retire Godzilla for like, they planned for like 10 years or so, right? Just like they did with the Showa era. Like, it's not as popular as it was before. We can put this franchise to rest for a little while, and then, in a decade, we're going to have another huge, big return of Godzilla, just like we have in the past. Yeah. And do that, right? And in the meantime, TriStar Pictures in America, like, is going to make their American Godzilla movies. So there still will be Godzilla in the zeitgeist, right? And America has been trying to make an American Godzilla movie on their own for years and just never gotten off the ground. A good time to do it would be in a time when Japan just isn't making a Godzilla movie, right? So TriStar tries to make their Godzilla movie. We will have an episode on that movie, but I think it's well known in the world that 98 Godzilla movie like famously fails. Like it's a critical failure, absolutely fucking tanks, and like people don't like it. It does massive damage, just over in general. So like there's just a weird situation here where it's sort of like, the whole deal was to like give Godzilla a rest on our end and let America kind of take the reins, and they fucking just crashed and burned.
Yeah.
And now we're worse off than we were before, because not only are like, you know, was it already feeling like Godzilla isn't the big cash cow it once was in Japan, but now like the reputation is also tarnished,
right, yeah.
because now people are just associating Godzilla with this shitty Roland Emmerich movie that came out, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think like you can kind of guess that this movie is sort of born out of that, right? Like in the interim, Tomoyuki Tanaka, who was like the granddaddy of Godzilla, right? He's come up on every episode. He was the producer, came up with the idea, shepherded Godzilla for like 40 years. He dies in 1997. And so Shogo Tomiyama is like the executive producer in Toho that's like the new guy in charge of Godzilla, and like in charge of Godzilla during like this terrible period where Godzilla is just like in the dumpster, right?
Right.
So it's like, it feels we've got to fucking reclaim the reputation of Godzilla. We kind of got to show America how it's done. So this movie very quickly goes into production as a direct response to the 1998 Godzilla. Like literally the only reason that it exists. And that's why, you know, I think that's why there's such a small gap between the Heisei era ending in 95, this one coming out just 4 years later, why this movie just like starts and it's not like a big triumphant like the new Godzilla. It's just like, here's another Godzilla movie, and it's different, I guess, but also not really, because it's just Godzilla fighting alien, you know, like it's, when I described this movie as being sort of like Spider-Man being rebooted, like I meant it in more ways than one. This is like the MCU Spider-Man, like he already exists in that universe. He just shows up in a movie, and here's the new version of him because, and you just saw another Spider-Man not too long ago, but we just needed Spider-Man again to distance ourselves from that last Spider-Man that just happened. That's the only reason it exists. Like that's why this Godzilla is here.
I think that kind of makes sense. I mean, I think for several reasons, this is still better than Raids, but like some of the things I think that were a problem with Raids were because of how quickly it was made. And it sounds like maybe some of the things that I don't love about this one could have been ironed out with a little bit more time. And it sounds like they were when you did the English cut. You know what I mean? Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Yeah. And I think too, like there was this interesting shift in philosophy and approach, even though, you know, I'm sort of joking, like they just made another Godzilla movie. There was an intentionality with this being the start of a new era, like the idea of like shedding continuity, taking an anthology approach. I think the intention based on, you know, one of the books I was reading is that like intention was kind of like to spotlight a different director with each installment. So like you'd have like a movie, even if movies were being pumped out year after year, they would be a pretty unique individual vision, which does feel different than what Godzilla movies have maybe been in the past, right? And sort of maybe justifies like this could be our new direction of just being like, here's all the different things Godzilla can be based on the vision of a director who probably was a fan themselves growing up with Godzilla, right? Which again also feels like a direct response to Roland Emmerich doing the 98 Godzilla movie, because I think he pretty famously is like, I didn't really like Godzilla, I just wanted to do a dinosaur movie basically, you know? So it's like, here's what the real fans would make a Godzilla movie of. And whether or not that's like a great idea or not, like that's kind of what this whole era I think is sort of born out of.
Sure.
And it's also like the 2000s, so they're like more action oriented, they're more like a digital effects driven, for better or worse, you know? So like there's just like this, I think, markedly different flavor to these movies going forward. And I do think you kind of see a lot of it, the good and the bad, in this movie presented, of just sort of like, it does feel like a more commercial oriented thought process going through with making this movie, you know, than maybe like Return of Godzilla was, for example.
Sure. Yeah. And especially with that context. I don't know that was top of mind for me just like in a vacuum with the movie, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I think that I mean, how could it be? Because you're not watching it with that context, you know,
right.
Which I think makes it interesting, because you were like judging it as a Godzilla movie, and then these guys were almost like not making it as a Godzilla movie. They're almost making it as sort of like as a bitter rebuttal to another movie they didn't like, which is sort of a weird space to be in.
Totally.
You know?
Well, and like the movies I've seen so far are the original, which is like amazing. The second one, which is not. And then the first reboot, which is sort of like, I think I described it as what I would have expected from a Godzilla movie prior to rewatching Godzilla, you know, like that sort of Godzilla destruction sort of big big sort of spectacle type thing.
Yeah.
And this is like an interesting one to follow up those three.
Yeah. And also like all the people working on it are like, another difference is that like every movie we watch, it's sort of like, here's an almost entirely different team of people following up, what Godzilla is. This one, it's just like a bunch of people that had been working on Godzilla movies for years already, like the director, Takao Okawara, like he directed almost like half of the Heisei era movies that we're going to be watching. This does end up being his last film. So this is sort of his swan song, but it's not like they brought in a new director with a new vision or anything, for this new era or whatever, right? Like the writers had written for a number of Heisei movies. Special effects, Kenji Suzuki, he had worked as assistant effects director on almost all of the Heisei era movies, and this one is the one where he takes over as full-time director. And the score, Takayuki Hattori, he'd done the score for like a previous Heisei movie as well. So like it's not like this new generation or anything either. It really is just sort of like, we got to make this, guys. We've got to make our Godzilla movie.
Well, that in itself is really interesting, right? Because what the next movie should have, or like was intended to be, was like kicking off the next sort of era of Godzilla. But you're sort of forced to be like, okay, who knows how to make a Godzilla movie? Come here, you've done it before. Like, but also make it new. Like,
yeah.
So that's a weird space to work in creatively.
It is a weird space to work in. Yeah, I mean, like production history wise, that's the main stuff that I have. I have some things we'll talk about as we go through like the plot and things like that.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, there's nothing particularly extensive about it. It is just like 98 movie bad. We're gonna make our movie now, and now we're making movies again. Like that's kind of the story of this movie, which is it's such a weird like space to watch a movie. And like I know you haven't seen the 98 movie in like probably an extremely long time,
probably since like 1999.
Yeah, but like I don't think that the movie, like the content of this movie isn't really responding to the content of that movie, if that makes sense. Like there's some funny little parallels in it, but it's not like they're sort of like, we're going to make our version of their movie. It's just sort of like, that movie made us mad, so we're going to make a Godzilla movie that we would want to make regardless of that one,
No, that makes perfect sense to me, right? It's less about responding to the content of the movie and more just being like, you fucked up and now here's... We have to show everybody that this is how it's supposed to feel, And I think in a lot of ways, this movie feels like really, really fucking good as far as like Godzilla shit goes, as far as I know it. You know what I mean?
I think
There's
so. Yeah.
certain things about this movie that I'm like, cause there's certain things about this movie that feel older than I think it is, and then other things that make it feel way more recent than it actually is. Things where I'm like, I feel like this composition could be in a movie right now. Like there's just some really, really cool stuff they do with it. So I'm excited to get into the good and the bad.
Let's talk about this Godzilla specifically, this design and everything, because it's a really radical, different, even I know for you've only watched a few of them, but like even just in general, like this is a radically different Godzilla than any Godzilla that has ever come before it. Just like the weird, like hunched over reptilian look of this one with the big purple fins. Like no other Godzilla has ever looked like this one. What is your feeling about this?
I think this design absolutely fucks.
It's really good. It's really good.
It's so good. The only time it ever sort of looks a little bit weird is like there's certain like totally lit, like daytime lit, like head-on shots where I'm like, your mouth is fucking huge, dude.
I love how big his mouth is.
I don't really have a problem with it. It just sort of is like notable how big it is. It seems like notably bigger. But no, like the spines are so fucking cool.
So cool.
Like the texture on it, the silhouette is great. The proportions are great. I mean, I think they knew it too, because the amount of times they show off this suit in the distance and you just sort of like marvel at it. Like it's really, really good. I this is so far my favorite one we've seen.
Yeah, minor spoiler, even though these are supposed to be anthology movies, this one is like so good that they just use the same suit in the next movie.
Oh, hell yeah.
It's supposed to be unrelated. It's just, it is really good. Apparently, like this actual suit is like one of the best preserved ones too. Like,
oh, awesome.
Up to like 2019, they would like have it at cons and stuff. So like, which is like really, I think, rare for Godzilla suits, just because of the stuff that they're made out of and the ways that they're used. But this one, you can still find it places to this day, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's really exciting.
Yeah. The name of the suit is Meyer Goji, which is the Mirin the title of the movie. That's why it's called that. I love that name. It is the suit actor for this Godzilla, Tsutomu Kitagawa. This is the first time he had played Godzilla, but he would do so for all of the Millennium movies.
Oh, wow.
Except for one. There's only one that he doesn't, but the one that he doesn't actually does make sense when we get to that.
That's pretty incredible, because this is the second time I feel like I've been surprised at how long a suit actor portrayed Godzilla, which means there can't be that many main suit actors for Godzilla.
Yeah. They once they find a dude to do it, he does it for a very long time.
I mean, if you find someone who's like good at it and willing to do it, why would you let that go?
Yeah. And this guy's cool too. He's going to be cool for us because he's been suit acting since 79, particularly for Super Sentai.
Okay.
He's been a bunch of usually black or blue and occasionally yellow Rangers.
Oh, Rangers themselves.
Rangers themselves and a number of Sentai teams from Battle Fever J through 1995. The last one that he was for a while was Ninja Black in Kaku Ranger.
Holy crap.
Mm-hmm. And he probably only stopped doing that because then he would be doing Godzilla movies for a while after that. Because then he comes back in 2007 to be Master Bat and Geki Ranger.
No way.
And I don't understand this, but the child version of the blue Tokyuger in a couple of Tokyuger movies, I don't know what that means.
The child version of, I mean, I understand what that means, but I'm confused as to how he is playing the child version of a Ranger, because they're like literally children.
He's credited. So
I will say, I do think that the young Tokyugers are like bigger than their actual child actors, which kind of makes sense, like proportionally. So that's probably what it is. In a way that
made them look smaller, maybe, or something.
Maybe, or I don't know how big this guy is versus how the main suit actors are. Who knows?
Yeah. But yeah, so there's I think like, if you've watched any like 90s or 80s Sentai stuff, you probably have seen him playing a Ranger, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's always surprising to me when it's like suit actor that's doing stunt stuff in like a human thing, like with Sentai, then going to play a monster. Like that's really cool to me.
I was so sure you were going to say that he was a monster suit actor.
Yeah.
Like that's what would have made sense, because you already would have had the experience playing with scale and playing with miniature environments and stuff like that.
Especially with this Godzilla, because this Godzilla moves even less human than I think any Godzilla we've ever seen before, just because he has to be so hunched over, Like I think that there's a picture from years and years ago, I think, of like the original sort of like the three Godzilla actors from each era, like doing their Godzilla walk. And, the first two are like standing mostly upright and he's like hunched over next to them. And it's just so funny to see the comparison of how they do the walk differently.
Is that a constraint of the suit, or is that a choice?
I think that was just a choice.
That fucking rules.
Yeah, I think that was just a choice because he doesn't have to, and the one that he doesn't, the Godzilla suit that he doesn't, or the Godzilla movie where he doesn't play Godzilla in this era is one where he is not hunched over. So like, I think that is just a thing that he is capable of doing.
Had a vision. Right. I love it. I love this guy.
Yeah, I mean, and it's good. Like the Godzilla acting in this movie is really good. Like part of it is just how well constructed the suit is. But like, I don't know, just the body language of it is just like, it all comes through.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was designed by Shinichi Wakasa, who designed movies on Godzilla films since the 90s. But I think this was the first time he designs an actual Godzilla suit. And like, one of the other things that's funny about this is that we all kind of, I think, collectively just think of Godzilla as being green. This is the first time the Godzilla suit is actually just painted green. Like every other time it's like some shade of like charcoal gray in every other movie. Even like the Showa era movies where like in my memory he's green, but I think when you actually watch it, it's like it might feel like a green tint because of the lighting, with the suit itself is actually gray. Like
I guess I didn't even like register that it was actually green. Just because it's such a, I mean, like now I'm staring at it and I'm like, yeah, like in one of the fully lit shots, I'm like, yeah, I guess that is green. But like I don't know, like it's almost like a weird trick, I guess, where you're like, yeah, Godzilla's Godzilla colored. It's like, oh no, it's different actually.
Yeah, it's so funny. Godzilla colored, I like that. It should be like a crown that's just like Godzilla color.
Yeah.
Also, he has like orange atomic breath, which is sort of weird. I think that's the first time it's ever anything but blue or white.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I don't know why they decided. I mean, well, I think there's times when it's other colors, but like, because it's been enhanced by something or whatever in another movie. But like, just the baseline color is just orange. Like, I don't have any feelings on it either way. Like, it's cool. It's just weird. I'm sort of surprised that they didn't make it a purple breath to match his purple spines, but
yeah, well, I mean, his spines like change color when he's about to do it, so I don't know. I like that they're purple. Don't like that, and it would be rad if they lit up purple.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's meant to be like more. This is a weird thing to say about this movie, given the movies I've seen, but like, I don't know if it was made orange to be more grounded or more like quote realistic as far as like fire. If it's supposed to be like atomic. That's not like that. I mean, it is science fiction, but I have no idea. But who knows? I mean, a lot of this movie is sort of is very orange, so
that's
maybe
true.
it just fit the color story.
Yeah, color palette. Yeah. The only other thing that I have about the suit that I thought was interesting is that with the height of him, he's actually shorter than the last Godzilla that we watched. He's a shift down. He's actually closer in size to the original Godzilla. He's like 55 meters. Yeah. And I think they were intentionally just being like, felt like the distance between human beings and Godzilla was becoming a little bit too much with previous movies, so we're going to shrink them back down a little bit.
Sure.
And I think they do some cool stuff with Godzilla being like eye level with people when they're on the tops of buildings here instead of towering over buildings in this one.
Yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah. I that I could tell it was smaller than the last one we watched.
Yeah. Okay, so where do we want to go next? We have another kaiju that we can talk about, or we can talk about plot stuff and then start talking about that kaiju once we get to it.
I want to start with my predictions from the last episode, because I believe that I predicted that Godzilla 2000 would have something to do with technological anxiety because of Y2K.
Yep.
Check.
Right on the money.
I also think that I predicted that there would be multiple monsters, which is wrong.
Yes. Well, yeah, but you still got it right that there was at least another one. Kaiju.
Right.
Yeah.
And I remember, this wasn't an official prediction, but I just thought it was funny that we had talked about it. Our very last episode, when we were talking about the 84 movie, I mentioned that I saw the back of the Blu-ray case and was like, oh my God, is that a UFO? And then it turned out not to be a UFO. And then this fucking movie has a UFO in it.
Right?
It's like, so I even talked about how I was like, I know at some point Godzilla is going to fight aliens or whatever. I don't know if I'm ready for it. So there's maybe some context.
Yeah. But also, the other thing you said, though, that's funny because it wasn't like a correct prediction, but like you were predicting that like cloning or something would be part like a genetic experiment in cloning would be part of the story for Godzilla coming back or whatever. And like, while that's not the reason that Godzilla is in this movie, like there is a sort of kind of cloning genetic play stuff happening in this movie with
that was the other thing. It was how does Godzilla come back? And I said ill-advised science. And that's not how Godzilla comes back, but that's what awakens the other kaiju. So
yeah. And then the kaiju does try to like literally clone Godzilla. Yeah. So like
become another Godzilla. Yeah.
You're kind of, I feel like you were really in the like 1999 zone with where your brain was.
I'm impressed with myself with those last two predictions, the 80s prediction and this prediction. I guess I know the themes of these decades better than I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, you mentioned the alien. Do you want to talk about this alien a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about it. I mean, do you have any background on the alien I need to know before we get into it? Okay.
Officially, the name of the like monster that it forms into is Orga because Orga, named after Organizer 1. That's the Japanese name for the Godzilla cells. Orga because it's using the Organizer 1 cells to. In the English version, it's called Regenerator 1. They rename it, which makes more sense.
The subtitled version I watched was also Regenerator 1, so that must have been subtitled after, or it just was somebody subtitled the movie after the English dub was made. I might not have been watching an official version.
Well, I'm glad we brought it up because the only reason the only way it makes sense is if Organizer 1 is the name of the Godzilla cells and they name it Orga, but like Organizer 1 also doesn't really make sense for the name of the Godzilla cells. So like I like the name Regenerator 1 better. It just makes Orga's name not make any sense, but also who cares? They never even call him Orga in the movie. I don't think so.
Yeah. Whatever. And that is I'm glad you said that also because I was wondering there are some things that they say in the Japanese version, as at least as it was subtitled for me to understand, that I was like, what does this even mean? Not that it was like, not that it was incomprehensible speech, but like thematically, I'm like, what does that have to do with anything? And then in the English version, it made sense. And I was like, oh, good. I'm glad they corrected that line, or that they tweaked that line. So it makes me wonder. I'll have to seek out like a more official version to see how different the version I watched is from one that would contain Organizer 1 as the
I don't remember where.
Sample.
I mean, I feel like Pluto used to have the Japanese version on there before they took it off recently for some reason. Maybe it'll be back on for some point. But and maybe the one, because I feel like when I originally watched this movie, I think I rented it because I don't own it, and so maybe the one that you can rent from like Google is also Japanese officially. So I don't think it's not inaccessible to find the Japanese version anymore or anything. It's just weird that it's also not as accessible all the time. I don't know. Yeah. But Orga's the name of the monster. Millenniums is technically the name of the aliens, which is really funny to me. And I guess background wise, portrayed by Makoto Ito, who is a suit actor for tons of Kamen Riders throughout the 2000s. Yeah, a bunch of Kamen Riders and some he did some suit acting as well for Garo and some Super Sentai characters in the 90s and 2000s. So another just like Toku great. The first time I think he's been in a Godzilla movie. And so a couple of things about this alien. The thing that is like official part of the design once it becomes Orga is intentionally meant to look like the TriStar Godzilla's head. If you compare that Godzilla, the 1998 Godzilla head to what Orga's head looks like, because that Godzilla looks like a fucking freak, right? Yeah. Like in the Orga kind of looks like a freak. That was very intentional. I'm assuming you're probably Googling it to look it up right now.
I was going to try to be real quiet about it.
No, go for it.
It becomes a lot more apparent when you can kind of see it out, like when it's like out of action, out of context, not sort of like surrounded by destruction and whatnot. The shapes are a little bit clearer. Yeah.
And like the idea that then Orga is trying to become a clone of Godzilla and it looks like the Godzilla 98. It's like, oh, you're making a funny little reference to the 98 Godzilla being like a failed bad clone of Godzilla that's actually terrible. Like that's exactly what they're doing right now. Which, it's funny. I think it makes Orga make a little bit more sense for why it is the way that it is. But the other thing that like I haven't seen anyone who worked on the movie actually like quote or say, I think that there's a lot of inspiration in this movie coming from Independence Day as well. I'm going to just send you my Google document and you can scroll down and see. I put in, have you seen Independence Day, Doug?
Oh, don't make me expose the fact that I've never watched Independence Day.
Oh, you don't have to be ashamed of that. It's like a very
I'm not ashamed of it, but
movie.
Someone out there's going to be like, what?
Independence Day is like patriotism, the movie. It's like fucking terrible, but also love it to death. One of the most fun movies ever made. I think that they modeled the sort of in between like alien version of the Millennium before it becomes the Orga monster after the aliens in Independence Day, in that it has the same sort of saucer head and the same beady eyes and the same sort of mouth and all the tentacles and the way that it's the Independence Day alien when it's in its sort of like exoskeleton form, the feet sit on the ground with like the curved toes. That's the same way that alien has before it turns into Orga. I think that it is very much inspired by Independence Day.
It reminded me also of like War of the Worlds aliens.
A little bit, for sure.
I don't know if the ones I'm thinking of, because the War of the Worlds alien design has like transformed over time. I don't know if what I'm thinking of would have ever predated this.
I think the one you're thinking of is probably from the 2005 movie, I feel like.
Well, I mean, kind of, but like not specifically that one, because I'm also looking at like I'm thinking of like illustrations of them from book covers and things like that. Yeah.
But even still, I mean, that could be part of it too. But I think maybe it's like that probably partially inspired the Independence Day aliens, which I do think inspired this alien, because that's like, I think that there's so many connections to Independence Day that I feel like the way that the tower explodes when Orga blows it up is right out of like an iconic shot from Independence Day. The way that you see like the shadow of the UFO over people, like there's iconic stuff at Independence Day of the shadows. The way that there's like crowds of people waiting for the UFO to do something right out of Independence Day. Like, and Independence Day was directed by Roland Emmerich, who directed Godzilla 98, and Independence Day was the highest grossing movie in Japan in 1996. So like, I think that the weird layers of like, not only did this Godzilla 98 movie like tank and everything and ruin its reputation, but it was directed by a guy that also directed the most like popular, successful movie in Japan a couple of years earlier. So it's like I can see how you're a producer at Toho just being like, these fucking Americans, man, like why can't we just like do our own thing? Not only are they like, they're dominating our box office and stealing our character and fucking him up. Like, fuck this, man. And so you end up getting this movie that's like a combination of two of Roland Emmerich's like biggest movies, essentially, his Alien movie and his Godzilla movie, and sort of sticking it to both of them in that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's also an irony there in just the fact that like I guess it's possible that they're like all the inspiration from Independence Day is jabs, but like I also just feel like you can't like put the toothpaste back in the tube from a movie like that. So
for sure.
There's like an irony in them trying to show America and Roland Emmerich how to make a movie using inspiration from an incredibly popular movie Roland Emmerich made, you know? Like,
right. And like those, I mean, the Independence Day aliens are like some of my favorite alien designs like ever made, to be honest. So like, I'm not mad about seeing them kind of riff on it, even if it's sort of done like kind of bad CGI very briefly in this movie. But you know, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, it's just, again, I feel like it's so hard once you've sort of like seen the Matrix with this movie of like how tied into like American movies that it is, it's hard to like not see that in every angle of this movie just being a response to Hollywood stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but anyway, what are your thoughts on Orga and the alien stuff?
Well, I know the CGI is a whole conversation. I don't know that it has to be a very long conversation. When I was watching this, I was like, how did I not predict that there was going to be some like heinous CGI in this movie in 1999? Like, it just made perfect sense. I mean, we covered specifically like the sort of popular, like we covered the transition of animation from like flat traditional animation into CGI animation, which happened like just years before this. And then the conversation always talks about, like, always gets into like other things other movies were doing that may or may not have looked as good. It's wild to me that it just didn't cross my mind that this would be like, CGI heavy is a strong word for this given the context of Hollywood right now, but like a pretty CGI heavy movie for what I would have expected, you know?
Yeah.
I was like kicking myself because I'm like, of course there's going to be something that's just like gnarly, poorly lit CGI because this is what year it is, you know?
I mean, you're also probably subconsciously kind of hoping that, you know, these Godzilla productions would be like a little bit above that.
To be honest, like, you know, one of the things that's so fun about doing Skrionk after Falling with Style is that we go from something that is it's not really fair to call Pixar movies like CGI special effects. Like the entire medium is CGI animation, but we go from something that's 100% CGI into something that is born out of like 100% practical, you know? And I know that recent movies, I'm certain, have to use CGI very heavily to pull off what they do, but I just wasn't really expecting it for a long time. Like perhaps until maybe like 1998 rolls around.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, right. And so much of it in this movie, like unnecessarily, like they really do like scale back some of the miniature stuff in this movie. And like, I think, this is the first fully computer generated shot of Godzilla in any Japanese production ever.
That caught me off guard because it's cool, but it doesn't necessarily look great.
No, it's like, cause it's the one where he's swimming. Right. And like, and it's like, I appreciate that. Like, yeah, we probably never really seen a real shot of just Godzilla swimming before because that's incredibly hard to do practically, if not kind of impossible. Probably
impossible.
Yeah. So like, I appreciate the swing of it, but that and like some of the chroma key stuff that they do in this movie, like there's that moment of Godzilla walking on. I remember distinctly like when I was seeing it, when he comes ashore on the beach. I remember seeing it in theaters a few months ago and being like, does it just look this bad because I'm seeing it on a giant screen. And then I watched it last night on a television and I'm like, no, it just really looks really bad.
That was a moment when I was watching it and I like audibly, there's no one else in my apartment. I wasn't watching this with anybody, but I was like, oh no, you know, like it just is not great, which is funny because there are other sort of composites or you know, smashed together is such a terrible way to put it, but like there are other digitally done combinations of things that work really, really well. That just is one that does not look good. And part of it, I mean, I'm certain across various episodes of our various podcasts I've talked about this, but like it's just really hard to do that stuff when you are supposed to be making a shot in broad daylight. Like that just makes it so hard. So like even the CGI shot of Godzilla swimming, I was watching it and I was like, just make the scene darker. He's underwater. It doesn't matter. Like it's going to look so much better if you just darken the scene. And then it's like menacing and you still know what it is.
It's just, when it's weird too, just because there's other Godzilla movies have done compositing stuff a little bit better. And so it's like, but I think it was because it's not, you know, practical compositing. They are doing chroma key green screen stuff. And I think really just trying to do something different. And the technology just isn't there yet for them, you know? And I think it does end up giving this movie a little bit more of a B movie quality than I think you ever expect from a Godzilla movie.
That's what's so strange though, because sometimes absolutely. And then sometimes I'm like genuinely in awe of what the scene they put together, right? So you have these scenes like the one where he comes ashore and you're like, oh, that looks so bad. But then there's another overhead shot where the UFO is approaching Godzilla. And so you're above it and he's just walking through the water. That one looks great. And like, I know that they had to have put that shot together, right? It's a Godzilla suit walking through water. And then they put that over a huge, like a really wide overhead shot of water. It's like seamless from, you know, and not like, if you're not really, really examining it, like I couldn't see any obvious seams. And then there's like all the in the distance, in shadow, amidst fire sort of scenes, or the driving one where he's like walking behind them while they're driving.
Yes.
Some of that shit looks so fucking good. So there are times where it makes it feel like, I'm watching a really low budget B movie. Then there are other times where I'm like, I'm watching a movie that could be something made now, but like as a retro, like as an homage. Like it's really bizarre. True. That's why for so many things about this movie, I'm just of two completely different minds.
Yeah. It actually kind of surprises me that like when they were recutting the movie that they didn't like cut out some of the shots that didn't look very good. Maybe they really just nobody in year 2000 could recognize if it looked bad or not. But I feel like even back then it's sort of like you can watch a movie and see like this isn't very good, you know, because like the shot of Godzilla swimming didn't actually need to be in the movie. Like they could have cut that out when they were re-editing the movie, you know?
So here's the thing. I will say that the CGI I am more forgiving on because I don't know that in 1999 we would have looked at that and been like, oh, that's bad CGI. You know what I mean? The composite shots, I think we would have looked at and been like, oh, that's a rough seam. Like that is very clearly on a green screen, or we wouldn't, even if we didn't know how they did it, we'd be like, that's not natural.
Yeah.
But like CGI is a weird one because I think we've like grown to recognize CGI alongside CGI animation. So like Beast Wars is cool as fuck. But it
looks like ass.
It looks like ass. But at the time, I was like, this is cool as fuck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also feel, I guess so. I guess I'm also thinking, though, like, we've seen the T-1000 in Terminator 2 in 1991, and this is like 8 years later. And the spaceship is also kind of like a bright, shiny metal that somehow looks so much worse than the T-1000 did. And I feel like that it is like, and I understand because it's hard to do and everything, but it's like, I feel like you as an audience member would be able to make that comparison.
And I know why. They're just not lighting anything that they're doing in CGI correctly. I mean, that's like the big advance in CGI where things really start to be like, oh, that looks integrated into the environment, is like figuring out lighting. You know? So, and the T-1000 benefits, I think, from being this sort of like hyper shiny sort of metal. Which is smart. I'm not saying that like it's easy, but that was just like a smart choice. That this one just didn't make, or they needed to either make it like totally matte and not reflect anything, or they needed to make it like extremely shiny, like a fucking Star Wars Episode 1 ship, you know?
Yeah, it's just and I think, and I wonder how much of it was like, again, not to keep harping on this, but like the sort of relationship with Hollywood movies, where Hollywood, I think, had like kind of done more experimentation with digital effects than Japan's film industry had been doing, and had moved farther along. And so suddenly, like we talked about with the return of Godzilla, where like a lot of the places that Japan had been at the forefront of with special effects, suddenly they're behind Hollywood on. And so this movie feels like maybe like sort of trying to play catch up with more digital stuff and CGI. And they're just like, people don't have the experience or the knowledge that a lot of people who have been working in Hollywood for a decade on CGI at this point had, and so they just are sort of trailing behind. Because I do feel like, I don't know, I mean, it's been a while since I've seen the other Millennium movies after this, but I feel like it's like this is like the worst one that there is, and they do like get a lot better after they've figured out how to do it. It's like this one I think is really like the experimentation, and just clearly like aren't exactly sure the best way to deploy these digital effects.
Well, if they felt like they had to make something quick as a response, and also felt like they had to use digital effects, like it makes sense to me that some of this stuff doesn't look great. It bums me out that they felt like they had to like catch up, or felt compelled to use the same types of digital effects, because I feel like all the stuff that's practical in this movie rips.
Right.
They could have, it could have been their opportunity to be like, part of the problem with your American movies, you relied too heavily on these things that like that didn't make Godzilla what it is,
Right. Yeah, the actual like design of Godzilla and the design of Orga,
oh my god,
is so cool,
Yeah.
So
the design of Orga is great, and I like gasped when I saw it, because I didn't realize it was coming.
No, because it's so late in the movie before you see the actual real monster.
Sure is. But also, you've also been looking at this like CGI monster, and I mean monster in not a good way, like for a little while, and I just sort of was like, oh, I guess this is the monster for this movie, So I wasn't expecting it to actually become a practical suit monster. It was like such a relief.
And one of the coolest design practical suits monster.
It looks great.
Like, it's so cool and like so creepy looking.
Yep.
Well, let's see. We've talked about the kaiju. We've talked about the digital effects. Why don't we talk about the actual content of the movie, the plot and characters? And stuff. So what I think is sort of interesting, first of all, this is just a super brief super brief little tangent. One of the things I appreciate about the American dub is that Mike Schlesinger, who was the dub director, like was very adamant about getting Asian American talent to do the dubbing.
That's incredible.
Which is really, really cool
and very surprising.
Really forward thinking, Yeah. So I like that. But one of the actors, the actor who voices Shinoda, so like the lead is Francois Chau, who is I knew him immediately when I looked up his name. He's Pierre Chang in Lost, the guy who does the orientation videos from the Dharma Initiative that you'd see like through all the seasons, and then eventually like meet him once they time travel and everything. And he was like the physical actor for Shredder in the second Ninja Turtles movie, which is cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I've seen him like 1,000 times then, just from watching that movie over and over.
Yeah, and he's just one of those actors that you have seen in every TV show ever. Sure. Like he's there and he always kills it. So I thought that was really cool, because it's like, oh, a guy that like I know is in this movie, which is really neat. But anyway, the actual characters in this movie, I think it's kind of fun that like I feel like this movie is like, what if Yamane was the lead character and like Ogata was like the villain? You know what I mean?
Yeah, having just the sample I have, this is the first movie I've seen that wasn't like, here are our young, hot 3 lead characters. You know what I mean? And that's not a dig at anybody in this movie. Like, it's just that they were almost like, making like actual facsimiles of their casts for like a few movies. Yeah. At least as I've seen them. So this was like so refreshing to have like the scientist be the character. This is almost more what I would expect from a disaster movie in general, right? Like you have the person who's like seeing something before everybody else sees it and is like, no, you guys, like I've got the information you need, right? This is sort of like I can't remember his name at this point, but like the guy from Game of Thrones in Moonfall, if that was the lead character, or like you said, Yamane was the lead character, and that's awesome. I think that's so much fun. And the sort of like young handsome guy is like the villain. What I liked about it was, and I haven't watched a ton of Ultraman, but it was giving me like super duper Ultraman vibes, where it's like we have this big monster shit going on, and we have this like little scrappy network of people who take it seriously, and then this government agency who wants to like take advantage of the situation. It was just like all. Not that, again, haven't seen a lot, but all the Ultraman I've seen deals very heavily with like that particular dynamic. So I was like, I felt very at home in that sort of that relationship between the two sides and characters.
Well, even like Ultra Q, it like has like children that like work with their network and stuff like that. So that actually makes a lot of sense. I never didn't even connect that connection. But it does. It feels kind of throwbacky. I feel like in that way, like it feels almost like a 70s Godzilla movie. In like, I know you haven't watched any of those, but like there's a lot of 70s Godzilla movies that like obviously they're meant to be more oriented towards kids, so there's more kid characters in them, and like the kids are just kind of part of the action with their parents who are like scientists or journalists or what have you. And that's like exactly what this movie is. Like it's a scientist and his like super smart like scientist daughter and like a journalist that's all working together, you know, basically against this government agency that wants to sort of handle the Godzilla situation in the worst way possible, you know?
Yeah. And you and I have talked particularly on Walloping Web Snappers about how much of a risk it can be to have a singular kid be part of your main cast, because you run the risk of them being particularly annoying, or you feel compelled to like work them into the plot in a way that sort of like detracts from things. I like Io a lot. Like she's really smart. She's not like your sort of stereotypical, like, here's our precocious little girl, but she like also isn't dull. You know what I mean? And she's never really, I don't think ever the reason that something goes wrong, which is often what's so annoying about kid characters, where it's like, oh, we needed a conflict, so the child fell down, like, or the child is doing something stupid, you know, like she never is in any of those roles. And it's great. And the actor who portrays her is great.
Yeah. I think it's Mayu Suzuki. This is like the only movie she's ever done.
Holy shit.
I don't like, I mean, at least when I just like try to look up her credits, only find her for this movie. So hey, you're one and done. You nailed it. I think she's great in this movie.
No, she's great. I also really like Ichinose a lot, particularly more in the Japanese version. I think that the English dub kind of does her dirty a little bit and makes her like snippy, like more snippy towards people than she really has like needs to be. I feel like they just needed like, for our American sensibilities, to have one of those characters who's just like a little bit brash, but like has a heart. And I feel like Ichinose ended up being that character.
Yeah.
But I like her a lot. I like that she's a photojournalist. I like that she doesn't necessarily want to work on this Godzilla stuff, but like that's what she needs to be doing right now, and ends up sort of wrapped up in all of it, and thinks that this family is like a weird family of like freakazoids, and doesn't really want to spend time with them, but like has to in order to do the thing that she needs to do.
Which is, I mean, and it creates that fun arc, right, of sort of like reluctantly working together, and then by the end of the movie, they've like kind of be all been bonded together, right?
Yeah.
You know, I love that, and I love that like there's like points early on when I'm like, are they trying to tease a romance or something? And it absolutely does not go that way at all with them whatsoever.
Which I appreciate. I appreciate a lot. And there's that moment where I was like, wait, did I just miss something? Where they're trying to get into the building, and the way their tactic to get into the building is pretend that she's Io's mom, and I was like, did I just entirely miss some sort of like weird plot point? And I was like, no, I need to like stick with what I know. Like this,
no.
And then it made sense when I like stopped to think about it and was like, oh, she's just clever. She's just a clever girl.
I love it. Yeah, like I love that Io's the one that comes up with that. It's just like instantaneously, no hesitation. Like my mommy's in the building, and like they have to believe me. I'm a little girl, right? Like, yeah, it's so
great.
good.
Yeah, I like how clever she is. And she's probably another character I like more in the Japanese side of things, because I feel like her relationship with Shinoda is like slightly tweaked in the English dub, where like I feel like they make him feel like a parent who can't function without their kid, like their kid sort of takes care of them, and I don't feel like that's how they were originally written, especially because like in the first one I feel like he calls her like his partner, like she's not just my daughter, she's like my partner in this network.
I think it's still like that in the Japanese. I think it's just highlighted more. I think it's highlighted more in the English version. Yeah. Because I feel like I'm trying to remember, because I feel like there is like Io is still like making dinner and stuff for him and stuff. And I feel like, isn't there a joke in the Japanese version about like Io's homework, and then it's just like he isn't I don't know, maybe I'm complaining it, where like she's like, aren't you supposed to be telling me I need to do my homework or something like that? I don't remember if I'm
potentially it's not like a tremendous difference or anything. It's like little lines that were like changed, where it's like, instead of him sort of viewing her like an older sort of like treating her like she is a smart child and like talking to her like a human being, to the sort of dynamic of like, this dude can't function without his like 6-year-old daughter. Or she's not 6, she's probably like 12.
Yeah, but I know what you mean though. You're right though. I do think that they highlight it more in America. I mean, like, they sort of, I don't want to be like they dumb the characters down, but like they kind of do it. They kind of make them a little broader, I think, in the American version. But also a lot of stuff in the Japanese version was also kind of broad too. So
they're just less subtle, I think, in the American one, which I think makes a lot of sense. Like, I think we probably write our characters to be a bit more bombastic.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is an action movie, more than it is a deep character study in this movie. So,
well, that I feel like is very true, because I don't know that like there's any deep character journeys for any of these characters, really. Like, there's definitely changes that happen,
right?
But it's not. It's not a character study.
It's funny because like it's weird because like I'm like, I really like these characters. Like, I like these characters more than the characters in Return of Godzilla, for example.
Strong agree.
Right. But also, like, I wouldn't say that the human story is like incredibly like deep or compelling or anything. It's just like, these are just very likable characters that are very defined. And like, that's I mean, that's kind of all you need if you're doing a movie that's just kind of an action movie.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like, I like these characters a lot more as well. I don't think this movie ends up being a human story in the way that like some Godzilla movies will be and some Godzilla movies won't be.
Right.
But I do feel like the end of this movie, not to get to the whole end of the movie, but like, I do feel like it sort of tries to cap it off as if it was a human story, and we're supposed to like learn something about ourselves as humanity. And I'm like, we didn't do any of that along the way here.
I
like,
fully agree.
We just like, we went places and did things and watched destruction, and it was cool. Like,
like, there's the stuff. Okay, Katagiri, he's our hot guy villain of the movie. I truly. Gosh.
Tell me your thoughts on this guy.
What is his deal is my question. That's what I don't know what his deal is. Because the thing is, I am actually perfectly fine with the idea that it's sort of like, here's your hot guy who's just bad and wants to kill Godzilla by any means necessary and just maybe like a little bit narcissistic, whatever, fine with that. And then they feel like they give him this ending where it's just sort of like, he just wants to see Godzilla up close and he's smoking a cigarette, he's so cool, and he dies doing it. I'm like, what does this mean though? I truly don't understand what his deal is. Why is this happening? It looks cool. I just don't know why.
At the risk of sounding really harsh, Katagiri is like, I hate this character. I don't get this character. I don't like this character. It's probably my least favorite like main cast character we've talked about so far. Like, I just don't understand him, and I don't understand the direction, like how he's written. I don't understand the direction. I was so baffled by this dude. Like you said, he's like the hot young guy, but like all of his characterization like melts anything hot about him away, because he's just like so frustrating. I was so frustrated by the depiction of this character. I went out of my way to like look up the actor, and I don't do this with these movies because I'm like, I want to learn things as Derek is telling me these things. But I went out of my way to look him up and like see, like, has he done anything else? Is he a like good actor? Is this on him? Is it the writing? He's like an award-winning actor, and is like a theater guy. Like, he's a stage performer. Like, this dude can act. So like, why is this character this way? It's like they told him, do not move a single feature of your face until the very end of the movie. And it was like so weird. It's a character I could see working to some degree in animation, especially in like in an anime where you have like an over the top sort of villain who's not bombastic, but still like an elevated sort of version of a bad guy. But without the moments of like sort of cracking that villain would have. Like, he's just so straight-faced constantly. There's what is happening? There's clearly a history that he has with with his colleague and with Shinoda that they never get into. So I'm just like, what is his role?
Yeah,
why does he care about any of this?
Like, there's this weird idea that it's sort of like I think the idea in broad strokes is this idea that it's sort of like, here's these like men who used to be close friends and work together, and then their ideologies drew them apart, and now they're being brought back together. Whole movie
if they wanted it to.
Right, and now they're being brought back together because of this incredibly tense situation. Like, I think that's, I mean, it's been done before. That's like tropey as hell, but like it's because it works. Like, that's a perfect setup for any sort of disaster movie, monster movie, action movie type of thing, right? But yeah, we really, like, other than the idea, like, we get the barest like exposition of like, we used to work together, but you want to destroy Godzilla and I want to study him. And there's nothing beyond that. And I'm like, I guess that could be enough, but like, it isn't, I don't
think so. I think it could be enough if it would only be enough, I feel like, if they explicitly weren't like didn't have a history together as people who were probably close to each other, like, I like the fact that there are explicit sides in this movie as far as like, we need to study Godzilla versus we need to kill Godzilla. I think that's like, becoming a thing that I want to see in my Godzilla movies.
Absolutely.
And so I like that there's no ambiguity about that. The fact that you have Miyazaki as the third guy, though, and Miyazaki and Shinoda end up having like kind of a journey together and like a coming back together, it just made me want something from Katagiri that the movie doesn't give us. So if they didn't, it's almost like it would have made way more sense to just not explore any of that at all in this particular movie. But they got into like a little bit of it and not like all of it.
I agree with you. It's weird that like, I think that Miyazaki gets, I mean, Miyazaki is the one that I think gets the biggest arc as much as, it's
100%.
Like he's the one that is sort of like feels all the guilt of releasing this alien terror, right? And and like learns like, oh, Shinoda was right, I've actually been working with the wrong guy. Shinoda's the one that I actually want to be siding with, and I'm seeing how awful like the organization and the dude I've aligned myself with is, and like by the end of the movie is just like very much aligned on the side of good after having seen the negative impact that his scientific exploits have had on everything and basically destroyed everything he's ever loved around him. Like, great. Weird that he's like, like 8th down on the list of main characters.
Exactly. That's the thing. Like, Miyazaki ends up having the biggest arc, like you said, but is so obviously like second to the main villain, is like 4th as far as like the good people, like just nowhere near really protagonist status. So it ends up being such a weird dynamic the three characters have, and I just, Katagiri, I just can't.
It's really weird. One thing I will say about one moment that I do like with Katagiri that I wish there was like more stuff like, when there's the whole bit where he's like just willing to just blow up the building with Shinoda in it. And it's like, okay, sociopath much.
But that's great though. That's great because it makes you wonder, like, why is this guy like this?
Yeah.
Like what happened to him? I know that's the problem, right? But like, it's compelling enough to be like, that's so inhumane. Like, why is this guy the way he is?
Yeah. What I like though is like after that happens and Shinoda just shows back up and is like, in the English version, I don't remember what he says in the Japanese version, but in the English version he's like, nice try, asshole. Like, I'm like, so fucking funny. It's so funny. But that happens. But I will say one thing that Hiroshi Abe is the actor who plays Katagiri. One thing he does really well in that scene, he's like the one time he's really allowed to like emote. It is subtle, but like after that, like they have to reluctantly start working together. So Shinoda is just like, here's all the information I have. And Katagiri is just standing on the sidelines, just like giving him the biggest death glare the entire time throughout that entire scene. And he's like, I'm so fucking pissed that this guy isn't dead. And now I have to sit here and listen to this asshole right now. Yeah. And I hate him so much. I don't know why he hates him so much, but if we were given more information, I think that scene would be great. And I appreciate the emotion that Abe was giving him, even though he was given absolutely nothing character-wise for reasoning for why that would be the case.
That's fine. We get to write the history ourselves. You know what I mean? I think Katagiri was clearly in love with Shinoda. No, I don't think they are exes.
Oh.
I think was in love with Shinoda, and I think resents the fact that Shinoda was like this was unrequited. I feel like maybe Shinoda and Miyazaki were like more of a compatible pair, which I think makes sense based on everything we've seen. And
I think Shinoda was totally oblivious to Katagiri's feelings too, probably.
Sure. Yeah. But maybe was, very warm towards Miyazaki in a way that was interpreted as the feelings that Katagiri wasn't getting back from Shinoda. So then the reason he's so callous, the reason he wants to destroy Godzilla is because that's like Shinoda's whole like passion, you know?
Maybe if I get rid of Godzilla, finally the barrier between me and Shinoda can be gone, because he's been so obsessed with studying Godzilla that now this like one thing that separated us will be gone, and now we can finally be together. If Godzilla
I think that's
gone.
how it started.
But it's just sort of
I think
like,
that's where the split started, was that, and now it's gone so far that it's like, no, like there is no reconciling this. I just fucking hate him. I'm going to kill him and his monster.
Yeah.
So you're welcome, everyone.
Yeah, we did. wrote a much better script than they wrote for this movie with this guy.
Oh man.
Yeah. It is such a bummer because every other character in this movie is so fun, and then they just really whiff it on their main villain. And just the way that he dies, again, I just don't. It's so out of like, because it's like, it could be such a cool moment, and there will be moments in other Godzilla movies that come before this that are sort of similar, of, you know, a character accepting their death from Godzilla, that I think are really well done. And this feels like it's just sort of chasing a moment like that, but has no background on why. Because the thing is, like, Katagiri's like been obsessed with killing Godzilla, but he's never been obsessed with Godzilla, it feels like to me. I feel like there's a distinction there.
Yeah.
So the idea that he is suddenly like, finally get to see him up close. And the shot of panning up Godzilla's big old face in front of him is really cool.
Yeah.
It looks really good. And like in a vacuum, the fact that this dude just like pulls out a cigarette, just smokes in front of him at beholding this like, you know, divine experience of seeing, you know, this giant creature up close. Like, I get that. I think like as an audience member in the meta sense, like that is sort of, if you love Godzilla as a character, that's what you feel of like, God, wouldn't it be fucking cool to experience this magnificent creature up close? Like, I get that in the broadest sense.
I don't think it makes sense.
I just don't get it with the character. It doesn't make sense in the movie. It doesn't make sense with the character. And the fact that he stands there and just accepts his death so calmly. Why is he ready to die right now? I don't understand.
I feel like this moment is born from the sort of trope of, I have been defeated, so just do it. Get it over with. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, but
that's not like what happens.
I know. Right. No, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like the idea of a moment like this comes from that, which makes more sense to me. They don't establish that this guy considers Godzilla his like arch nemesis, or that he's spent 20 years trying to defeat Godzilla and has finally realized that it's been fruitless, and so just get it over with. No, he's like in awe and like, you're such a beautiful creature. Like, it's confounding. Yeah, everything about really that character is confounding. I don't like him. He better never come back. Well, I guess he's dead, but the actor can come back. That's fine.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I don't think the actor ever does, unfortunately, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Which is a bummer, because I mean, he could play any hot guy in any Godzilla movie. I'm sure he'll be fine.
I think he would have to. Well, I think just based on the little bit I saw, like he'd probably have to come back once again in sort of like a leading or main role. And he's got a pretty distinct sort of like vibe to him.
He does,
that I think he probably carries across various roles. So I could see where you wouldn't necessarily want him there again, or that he might not want to necessarily do it again.
Makes sense.
Just looking at my notes about Katagiri, and they're just so unkind.
Yeah. It's a bummer too, because like I said, like, you know, I had such a great time watching this last night. And then I do think that the ending kind of lands with a thud, partially because of him, you know, like, because that moment's the big finale moment. And then you get these like contemplative Godzillas inside each one of us type of stuff, which is a line that has been memed to death. It's a beautiful line. I love that screenshot. It doesn't really make any sense in the context of the movie, but
no,
you know.
So from what I saw in the version of the Japanese movie that I watched versus the English dub, like, the English dub made things make way more sense at the end. Like, here's what I have from the end in the Japanese version. Ichinose says, it's ironic it regained its own body by using Godzilla, and then it was destroyed by Godzilla the very next day. And then I think it is Miyazaki says, we scientists created this monster, but then asks Godzilla, why did you show yourself? And then Shinoda says, a monster humans created, and then Godzilla exists inside each one of us or something. Like, those thoughts together don't make any sense to me. But the English version is, she says, it woke up after 60 million years and Godzilla destroyed it the very next day. That makes way more sense to me. And then ever since we've tried to destroy him. Great. Then why? Why does he keep protecting us? Okay, I'm following. Maybe because Godzilla is in each one of us. Like, in the English version, those 4 thoughts do follow together. I don't think it says anything about the movie or humanity, but the lines themselves at least make some sort of sense. Sure. When I first watched the Japanese version, I'm like, what is anyone saying? You're just saying things. It's such a weird... After this dude just got murdered by Godzilla. It's such a weird way to end the movie.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I don't, and it's like, it's kind of unnecessary. It ends up being a thing where I feel like they felt like they needed to sort of tack on a grand meaning for what this movie was, when it's like, I'm sorry, y'all, the movie had no depth. Like, you can't just tack that on and just say that the movie meant something. Like, this was a movie that I think was, it's just a fun action movie. And I think the best parts of it are the sort of fun sci-fi stuff that it has. It doesn't really have much to say otherwise, you know?
But like, the thing is that the whole like lesson, or the whole thing we're supposed to take away, is simply that like Katagiri's obsession with killing him is wrong, because Godzilla incidentally protects us from something else that is a more destructive force.
Sure.
Boom. That's all.
Yeah,
like,
there you go.
We saw it on screen,
Yeah. I feel like they maybe tried to have some technology conversations in there too, of like,
let's talk about
Let's talk about that, because this is 1999. This is like on the cusp of Y2K, right?
Yeah.
So there is this whole through line in this movie that like the UFO is like using its like invisible infrared tentacles or whatever to like love that to like sap data, like, and it's like the information that it's extracting first of all is like what's sort of dooming humanity, because it's gathering all this information on Godzilla to learn how to then find it and then replicate it and battle it or whatever. So it's like humans are responsible because we have too much technology. And then also there's this other through line where I think it's like risking eliminating, like erasing all data in Japan, which would like destroy civilization by destroying all technology as well, which is a very like Y2K fear, I don't know. What are your thoughts and feelings?
I don't think it really lands anywhere as far as like being about that. It ends up being more just like a tool for how they're going to be destroyed, but I'm not surprised that it's there. I kept waiting for something to sort of more directly mirror or commentate on the sort of Y2K panic, which I imagine most people listening to us remember that, but like you and I were like probably only just old enough to really remember kind of what that felt like. But it was like a weird sort of anxiety just sort of like looming. And there was this sort of feeling of like, it's not really going to happen though, right? And then in the back of your mind being like, but it like could happen, Well, like, it's one of those things that like sort of famously, it's like for people in the world, it's like you were feared and then nothing happened. It's like, well, it was wrong to fear it, but it's like then behind the scenes, it's like actually because a lot of people who were very good at computers saw the signs and like worked very hard to make sure it wouldn't happen. Right.
And then it seemed all great for us on our end.
And so what's weird about this movie is like, I think this stuff is in here clearly because that was on people's minds, but the technology aspect of it doesn't really seem to affect the greater public as we see them, like they're just sort of reacting to monsters destroying the city. I don't feel like we get anything that injects that sort of Y2K anxiety into the public in this movie. The only real sort of like public stuff we get is either them running or watching the UFO or, stuff like that. So
there's the bit in it's in the Japanese version that they cut out of the English version where like you actually get messages from the UFO on computers and stuff.
Yeah, what the hell?
Like
oh my God, I wrote them all down.
The only reason that they cut that out, Schlesinger said that he wanted to cut out like all the Millennium stuff because he knew that would be very dated very quickly by referencing the word millennium all the time.
Sure.
But like that's the one thing that I'm like, I get what you're saying, but that stuff is so fun and cool and like feels very Digimon to me of like getting your message from the evil creature on all the computers spelling out your destruction. Like that shit is so fucking fun.
And it's so funny because it's just like screen after screen of like a word in Japanese and then a word in English, but also sometimes in French. So it's like destruction, alteration, transformation, erase, suppression, dominate, terror, eternity, prosperity, opulence, which I thought was the funniest word ever, revolution, kingdom. And it's just like playing everywhere, right? Like on screens on the street. Like it's just so funny.
I fucking love that. I love that stuff so much.
Oh, I think it was so great. Fun. I loved it so much. I was like bummed that it wasn't in the English cut. Also, I don't know if you looked closely, but when they show Ichinose in that sort of like computer lab, and she looks at the screens just sort of like scrolling through data, and realizes sort of what's going on. Did you happen to look at what was actually on the screen?
Oh, I don't remember what was on there. What was on it? What's on it?
It's a fucking list of video games, my dude.
No way.
It literally says like Star Cruiser, Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition, Street Fighter 2 Hyper. Like it's literally just a list of video games. Skylancer, Skydiver. It's so funny.
Oh no, well, the aliens are worse than we thought. They're gamers.
They're gamers. Oh no. Yeah, it's so super. I think that says Super Pong. Like it's just it's hilarious.
Shit, that's so funny.
And I don't know why I caught that, but for some reason I was like, did that screen just say Street Fighter? And if that hadn't pinged in my brain somewhere, I never would have noticed this. But yeah, it's just straight up a list of video games.
That is hysterical. Oh my God, I love it so much. I do love, I mean, it's such a, cliche thing to be like, look at the old technology in the 20-year-old movie. But like, it is always so funny, like, because it's a while before technology stuff really comes into play anyway. Yeah. And then it's like, as soon as she like pops open her Sony Vaio laptop and it's like, my laptop turned on by itself. I'm like, here we go. We go.
And all of those like turn of millennium Apple products we kept seeing, like the colored desktop monitors and everything. Oh,
give me more.
Beautiful.
Give me the
Bring
candy colored translucent
Seriously.
orange Max, please.
Love it.
Please. So good.
Yeah. I was very happy to see all of it.
Yeah, living for that stuff. Just beautiful. I do like that it's like the journalist figures out the alien's evil plan kind of like independently. Like, yeah, that is like someone who is explicitly not a scientist is still smart enough to just identify what's going on. Yeah. I found that to be kind of to be really fun. Like, I like that I do feel like that every character at least gets something to do, like you have, we've obviously seen a bunch of movies up to this point where like the lady is just the lady, but in this one it's like, I mean, apart from Emiko, to an extent, but like this one, it's sort of like she actually contributes quite a bit to this plot, which I think is fun.
Yeah, she gets to have like a full sort of personality and like motivation, and you understand why she responds to things the way she does. And I like the way you put that. Like everybody gets to do something. Like there's no character in the main cast that doesn't push something forward, right? Which is really, really good.
Yeah, and actually the whole sequence with the building about to be detonated, I think is also like really, really well done. Everything about with her, the sort of interesting transfer, like she's in there and doesn't realize it's going to blow up, and then Shinoda comes and then he replaces her, but then she's like trying to stop it, and then it won't stop and has to go back and try to get it, and they have to, the geography confuses me a little bit at certain points, but like for the most part, it's a great action sequence.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things that movies and TV shows get themselves into trouble with by defining exactly how long something is going to take. So they're like, we have 10 minutes, and then you're like, okay, like got, I don't even know if you could have gotten up to that floor in 10 minutes, let alone gotten up there, had a conversation left, like.
Yeah, and then drove your car down a highway, had a conversation with the military guy, turned around, came back, got into like the basement area, and then finally found the guy. And then when the explosion happens, it's like every single floor takes about maybe 30 whole seconds to fully explode to get down to the next floor. Right. Like, it's whatever action movie logic. You just have to live with that. It's fine. It's very fun. Yeah. It's fun to see your scientist have to temporarily become a bit of an action hero and like slide down an elevator cable and stuff.
Oh, that like gave me the heebie-jeebies so hard because
his hands are wrapped up when you next see him. Like they were injured from that.
They would be totally shredded.
Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be so awful. Okay, since you mentioned this conversation with the military, can you think of a reason why in the English dub they change what the military guy says as far as like permissions for Shinoda? Because in the Japanese one, the military guy lets him pass and says, and Shinoda's like surprised that the military guy is like so fine with it because he was expecting sort of a fight. They come up being like, we got to convince him that's my mom or whatever. And the military general's just like, yeah, no, go ahead. And it's because Miyasaka gave the order to let them in. But then in the English one, the military guy gives them a hard time and says you can't go in there, and it's because Katagiri said they can't go in, or because the Katagiri said the building needs to blow up, and so then they like run past him when he's distracted. And I'm not really sure like what the point of changing that is, especially because like the moment where Miyasaka admits to helping them is in both versions.
Oh yeah,
so
it actually doesn't make. It ends up making not. It doesn't make sense with Miyasaka, does it? Yeah, I feel like they just added it to just be more tense. Like, oh, now there's another obstacle. But you're right. Then they should have changed.
They should have cut out the line where Miyasaka's like, "It was me."
yeah. I mean,
I think it's probably just another one of those, like, like you said, adding tension or like adding like a slight edge to the conversations. It'll take me a while, I think, to get used to the edge in the English dub, because this is actually I had a coworker who was trying to remember which Godzilla movie they were trying to like recall a Godzilla movie and they couldn't remember which one, and I was trying to help them, and all they could remember was like there's some reporter and like her boss tells her to quit her bitching, and I was like, that doesn't sound like a Godzilla movie. What in the world Godzilla movie is this? And then I was watching the English dub and I was like, oh my god, the one thing he remembers is like the injected edge in the English dub.
It's so funny. There's like injected edge, but then there's also like silly moments of comedy too. Like there's like the one, there's a Superman reference because like when like in the actual like newspaper office, you hear somebody yell, "Great Caesar's ghost," which is a Perry White thing, like which is really funny.
And right before that, somebody said "God im Himmel," which is like German for God in heaven. Like, so I do appreciate those moments where it's like, I mean, if we have to dub things, we can have some fun with it.
A little bit of fun with it. Yeah. I'd read that it was like kind of meant to be a little bit of an homage to some of the like Showa era dubs with how Chiki does, I guess. But I'm like, but I've also, I don't know, I've listened to I've watched some of the Heisei era dubs from like the 90s, and they're not much less silly.
Not
so
that
like,
different.
I don't really know. It's not that much of a throwback, really. They were always kind of a little bit over the top sometimes, but
we didn't talk about, and I forgot to mention because I loved this so much. Orga's like vampire squid face, like when he like opens his mouth and reveals like this whole like webbed spiked like huge mouth thing. I mean, there's not that much to say. It's really cool. And it reminds me of like a vampire squid. Looks like exactly like that. I think it's a vampire squid.
When Orga first opens his mouth really wide, there's that look of Godzilla's like, yo, the fuck face. Like when that happens, it's so funny. Like it's like, because it can be hard to make Godzilla just on his face be expressive.
Oh yeah.
But that's just like the way his neck jerks back. Like, excuse me, you can do that?
I thought you were ugly already, dude.
Right. Yeah, it's so good. It's like so well acted.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Speaking of that, then, what do you think of like Orga opens up his giant ass mouth, obviously to like either scare and or fully consume Godzilla and then replicate him and clone him, and then Godzilla just like being like, okay, and just shoves his entire head to be like vored by Orga there.
It's interesting because I knew exactly what was going to then happen next, and it's not like a bad solution, but I with the limited amount of exposure I have to Godzilla or versions of Godzilla, it did feel way more like strategic or premeditated than anything I've seen Godzilla do. So like Godzilla doesn't seem like unintelligent necessarily in the movies I've seen, but it does seem very animal, right? So like he responds to things, he reacts to things, and like has intention and agency, but doesn't necessarily, but is still sort of like a force of nature more than like a strategizing creature. So the fact that like he sees this and like the immediate thought is like, dude, you fucked up. I know what to do next. Yeah. It's cool as hell. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. But there's some part of it that I think because I haven't seen other Godzillas that have that sort of mindset, and I know they must be out there, and I just haven't seen them yet. It was probably the first time I've seen that like sort of side of Godzilla. So it's slightly out of place for me, but I don't think out of place for the franchise.
Sure. I do think that maybe I don't remember if it's like in the manga adaptation of it or something, but like I feel like there's an implication that like the intention originally was that like Orga, grabs him and puts him in his mouth, and they just like it was just too complicated and they just filmed this instead. Because it would make sense if it was a last ditch everything, right? Like Orga roasts him with tentacles or something like that.
Yeah, that would make way more sense.
Godzilla's head, and then Godzilla figures out that it can use its atomic breath.
Right.
But as it stands, he just is sort of
right.
Like, all right.
In the movie, it's like pretty clear that Godzilla makes a move.
It's like time to get vored.
Yeah. Which like,
and he blows him up.
Do your thing, man. But also I kind of just like probably could have just blasted him. Like his mouth was wide open, you know.
Yeah, but
then we wouldn't have gotten
cool
to see
shot.
the cool kaiju 4, you know.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. Orga's a really fun creature.
Mm-hmm.
The only other notes that I kind of have just from the spare stuff, I mean, just so we mention it every time, you know, even though this movie isn't much of like a sequel to the original, it's another movie that starts with like a fishing boat opening and Godzilla attacking a fishing boat.
Love it.
What, like 4 for 4 now?
Too. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, every Godzilla movie opens with a fishing vessel. So
I mean, I think a lot of them do. So, you know, yeah.
And I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of them do, if only because
not?
it's such an integral part of those first 2 movies, you know, and like an integral part of like Japanese life. If you're going to be on the coast for these movies, you know, like every Godzilla movie is going to deal with like a coastal sort of situation. So
the whole opening of this movie I think is really fun. Like it opens with the actual like opening sequence is such a banger because it goes from like the fishing boat stuff to like your first big close-up pan of Godzilla with the ship in his mouth that looks really cool. And, like the spotlights on him, and then you have you know Shinote, like our main trio in the car, spotlighting him, and then the breath on the windshield. Like there's so much just cool shit one right after another in the opening.
It's interesting because the opening of the movie made me feel like it was going to be a very different movie because it feels extremely grounded. Like you have these sort of scientists setting up their antenna in like a field, you know what I mean? And you have them like I don't know. Wasn't expecting aliens, I guess is all I'm saying. Also, as far as the alien thing goes, when that sub went down under the water and found that thing, I was like, it's Bones Godzilla. I was so excited. I had no idea what it meant, but I was like, they just found the skull of Godzilla. Like I was still thinking in like sequel mode, looking for things that like connected it to the original story. And I was like so excited because you also see the sort of like hole that it shoots its laser beam out of. And I was like, that's an eyeball hole. I was like, this is so exciting. And since the Japanese version doesn't have any of the characters sort of hypothesize that it is a spaceship, they just hypothesize. They just are like, it's really, really old, and we don't know how it got here. For a long time, I was like, how does this relate to Godzilla? Is this a part of Godzilla? Is this like old guy? Like, I was so excited for it to be Bones Godzilla. Funny. But they do call it a meteorite at one point, so I sort of had that tempered a little bit.
Yeah. Well, Godzilla's skull got shot into space, obviously, and then
fell back down. Yeah.
Then he fights Bones Godzilla.
Shot into space, traveled through time. Aliens commandeered it, turned it into a spaceship, and then it fell back down to Earth. One thing at the start of the movie that is new to me, and is something new for like Godzilla lore as far as the movies I've seen, is this idea that the reason Godzilla is even coming ashore is because Godzilla like hates man-made energy sources. Like it's not trying to hurt people. It just like probably as a result of being attacked by an atomic bomb is like retaliating against anything that is like an unnatural source of energy, I guess.
Yeah, which does make it like, that's an interesting like character trait. Like it makes sense, you know, when you think about it.
It also kind of made me think that this was potentially going to be like a more villainous Godzilla because it is, it's not coming to shore as a reaction necessarily. It's coming to shore like to destroy things.
Yeah, it is. But then the movie ends with him just like destroying everything.
That's
so
true.
like, you know.
Oh yeah, that's wild. This is the first Godzilla movie I've seen where Godzilla doesn't die, right?
Yeah, or like, you know, is like trapped or something like that.
That's right. Because 55, we're like, still looking at you. You're all idiots who didn't check.
He's not defeated in this movie. Yeah. Which, I mean, I think
decidedly.
That's like kind of a benefit of the anthology format that I think is kind of, that's one of the things in this movie that I think uses this idea of an anthology the best, where it's like, we don't have to worry about if or how this might be setting up the future, because it's just like, we just end it with just Godzilla just fucking destroying everything. Maybe he just continues destroying all of Japan. Who fucking knows? You know, like I kind of love that open-endedness of it. You know?
Me too. I think it's great because the human characters are just sort of like, yeah. I mean, we get it. Of course he's going to do that. We fucked up. This is our cross to bear. You know, like
yeah.
It's an interesting way to end it. It's a compelling way to end it.
It really is. Yeah. Do you have any other things that you wanted to talk about with this movie?
Is this the first time we see like the sort of like crest of water thing transform into like Godzilla emerging from the water?
I think like because they do it in the '98 Godzilla movie, so I wonder if that was like inspired from that. But I'm honestly blanking on if that's ever done in any previous Japanese movie.
It was impressive. It looked really cool.
Yeah, it could very because it was such an iconic thing in the '98 movie. Like that's one of the things that was very cool about it. They absolutely put it in the trailers was that sort of like the bulge in the water, and then you see it spikes after that. I think that might have been something in the '98 movie. Invented and they adopted, but we'll see if I'm wrong when we revisit.
I'm guessing movies. The '98 movie probably also shows him like swimming underwater, right? So like that's, sure, I mean, I can see a couple things that they probably were like, okay, that actually was pretty cool. Maybe we'll start doing that too.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think so.
But no, I think that's pretty much it. Regenerator G1 is just another, like, it's reinforcing what 84 reinforced, which is that Godzilla's invincible, essentially.
Basically,
so
yeah.
That's becoming, it seems like, maybe a more standard bit of lore for Godzilla.
Yeah. I think the only reason they highlight it so much in this movie is just because it becomes part of the plot with Orga using that to manifest its form or whatever. It is an interesting, not to like backtrack too much, it is just such an interesting like concept that like your alien invaders like just literally don't have a physical form and are looking for that, like, and that's their goal. Like that's such a cool idea.
Specifically the fact that they're like looking for the form. Yeah. Cause like I remember there was that one movie that wasn't very good where the aliens were more of like an energy that sort of like consumed life on Earth. But they weren't looking for a body. This thing's looking for a body. I don't know what
movie you're talking about.
I don't remember what it's called. I want to say it's called like Darkest Hour, but there's like multiple movies called Darkest Hour. I don't know.
Generic name for a movie.
Yeah. I remember being really excited about it because I was like, oh man, we so rarely get to see aliens that don't represent like our earthly understanding of life. But it like wasn't that good.
Gotcha. Well, okay. Yeah, no, I love that idea. I like that idea a lot in this movie. I think it's really fun.
This movie did it first, so fuck that other movie.
There you go. Yeah, whatever it was, Darkest Hour or whatever it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, I certainly enjoy talking about this one. I appreciate it certainly a little bit more in context, like understanding why this movie exists when it does. I think it also makes it a little easier for me to understand and forgive some of the things I don't love about this movie.
Sure.
But I do think like just as a movie, we'll see where it ends up falling once I see more stuff. Because right now I'm just sort of like, I don't know if I need to watch you again anytime soon.
Yeah, for me, I've like seen it more than some other Godzilla movies that I really like. Actually,
I get the sense that this is for a lot of people the first like Japanese Godzilla movie they ever saw.
It would have, because the thing is, one of the things that was weird about the U.S. release, it ends up being the last one released theatrically, like until Shin Godzilla, because it doesn't do very well theatrically. Shit. And I think part of it is because like they were sort of like it did well in Japan, and then it's like, well, even though the '98 movie tanked, if it did well in Japan, maybe people will be like more open to a more proper Godzilla movie in America.
Sure.
But then I think what they ran into is like a lot of people, I think, thought that it was like, oh, they already made a sequel to the '98 Godzilla movie. Go into this one, and it's now, guy in a suit Godzilla, and it's a dubbed over Japanese movie, and it's like, what the fuck is this shit?
Yeah.
So it's like, it probably was a lot of people's first exposure to Japanese Godzilla because of the '98 movie.
Yeah.
And then see this, and it's sort of like, well, fuck the Japanese stuff. This isn't the American movie that I just watched and maybe even liked.
It's
like,
better.
So yeah. So it's just, everything about this movie and the way it's tied in, to like how people in the West perceived it is just really, it's just really weird and fascinating.
Unfortunate.
Yeah. But I do think, when you separate it from all of that and are just watching this Godzilla movie, I think it's just a fun Godzilla movie. It's weirdly broad and has like weird slapstick stuff in it sometimes out of nowhere. But like, I think it's interesting, and I think it does have one of the best Godzilla designs and one of the coolest kaiju that it fights. But it's not a deep movie, but I think it's a fun movie, That's kind of just where it stops.
I think that makes sense.
So going forward, it's hard to do like predictions for this because it's an anthology series. So it's not going to be like, are you going to see these characters again? Well, no, because it's an anthology. Like we already have established that.
Yeah.
But I am sort of curious, like you've seen the beginning of this new era for Godzilla. Like and knowing that it's an anthology, but having seen this one and knowing the time in which it takes place, like, how do you feel like the next movie after this, do you think it's going to be like very similar in like tone, style, and aesthetic? Do you think it's going to veer differently, or what do you think the next movie might be after this one?
I don't really know what to expect from this as an anthology, especially, I mean, I don't know how much of the hang up lasts beyond this movie. Like, I don't know if they got it all out as far as like, this is what Godzilla is, you know? Mm-hmm. So I'm not really sure what to expect. I don't know if it's going to be a lot of movies that sort of revive popular monsters, but like in a new story. Like, I could see that being the thing where moving forward in this era, especially if it's anthologies, if you don't have to worry about repercussions, if you don't have to worry about previous lore, especially if this is a new continuity, I mean, it's a perfect opportunity to basically do your like, here's our new Mothra movie and we can do it however we want. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a pretty characteristic trait of this era. And this is, I don't know, this is 2000, so like I'm not expecting any of it to be I wouldn't expect it to be any of the weirdest Godzilla I watch, but I don't really know. I would expect the weirdest stuff I watch to be like 70s and 80s Godzilla more than anything.
Yeah. Sure. I was going to be like, maybe I'll give you the title of it, but it literally wouldn't help. The title of the next movie after this is Godzilla versus Megaguirus. It comes out in 2000, and those words would mean absolutely nothing to you. Maybe, or do they?
Did you say Megaguirus?
Yeah, Megaguirus.
That's not like Mega and Gearus, is it?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, I was gonna say my boy.
I guess maybe I might be pronouncing Megaguir. I've only watched it in Japanese, so I don't know how they pronounce it in the dub or whatever. It's spelled like Guirus. So Mega. I always said Megaguirus. I don't know if I'm actually saying it right, because now I'm thinking about it. I don't know that I've ever heard anyone say it in English.
I think Anguirus is Anguir, but I mean, if it's not Anguirus, it's not Anguirus. But like, I was really excited for a second. I was like,
it's not. It's not that. I will not give you that hope, because you will absolutely be disappointed.
Where's my hyperactive boy? But yeah, I guess it would be hard to make any sort of predictions here.
Almost impossible with this, but I will let you make predictions for the next movie we're covering.
Sure.
But before we do that, because you don't even know what's coming next necessarily. Well, maybe you do. Maybe you've seen the schedule that I was making, but
yeah,
what is up next? There is actually like a light theme to this, sort of. And I will say, like, we're not going to do the, there's obviously like two sort of eras that we haven't touched yet, which is the current Reiwa era that we're in right now, the like literal movies that are coming out as we speak, you know, haven't touched those yet. And there's all the American movies, and we will be doing those. But I felt like it makes sense to still do more of these, like, continue giving a taste of these, you know, sort of original three Japanese eras, because the first movie in each era, and even with Raids Again, like, it isn't fully representative of everything you'll see in that era. So like the second movie, I think you'll maybe get a better sense of like what makes these sort of three eras very distinct for each other before we actually get into, like, you know, because the current stuff is a whole other conversation, especially the American stuff. So we can hold that for a little bit. So this sort of next batch is like the next movie in each era. And it's like essentially Godzilla's first like big versuses, essentially.
Wow. Anguirus found dead.
So, I mean, you'll understand what I mean, though, because February 13th, so next month, King Kong versus Godzilla, the original 1962 movie. Very excited for that one.
Me too.
Then March. I hope these dates are going to be okay with you, Doug, because I have not approved these with you. But March is going to be Mothra March, because we're actually not going to do just one, but two movies in March. March 13th on our regular release date, we're actually gonna have like this bonus episode that is the 1961 standalone Mothra movie.
Exciting.
Yes, because 2 weeks from then, on March 27th, will be the 1964 Mothra versus Godzilla.
Nice.
So We're going to do two kind of, we're basically going to have, you're going to get 3 Showa era movies back to back throughout February and March. That Mothra solo movie is going to have a special guest on with us. It's the main reason. That's really the main reason why we're doing that. But you know, that's also sets precedent. We're going to see some more standalone monster movies going forward.
Yeah.
But yes, Mothra March. And then in April 13th, we're getting back to the Heisei era with Godzilla versus Biollante from 1989, which I'm very excited about. And then May 13th, we're going to get back to the Millennium era with Godzilla versus Megaguirus from 2000. So we've had some hit or misses with this first batch. There are some real solid, absolute bangers coming up in the next few months. Like some of people's favorite movies.
I've been having fun the whole time. So whether I've enjoyed the movies like as a whole or not, right? Like 55 has plenty wrong with it. This one didn't necessarily meet my vibe all the time. I've been having fun no matter what.
Yeah, good. I'm glad. So the next movie we're covering, King Kong versus Godzilla.
I'm so excited for that.
I bet. So I think it'll be easier to make some predictions for this one then, right?
Yeah. Well,
this movie,
hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, this movie comes right after Godzilla raids again, but the year is 1962, so there's a significant gap of years between those movies.
Okay.
We'll talk about it. But, I mean, raids again, it ended with Godzilla frozen in ice. Do you think that this one's going to start with any connections between those movies? Or then explain it or not? What do you think? How you think this next movie starts
It has to be the exact same Godzilla. I feel like I planted that flag when we talked about it. I think I criticized the people in that movie too much about not checking for me not to predict that Godzilla just wakes up, the ice melts, and there he is.
Hell yeah. Love it. Okay, well, he's fighting King Kong. Why are King Kong and Godzilla fighting?
I believe that ice like island thing, I think that was like an island somewhere. And King Kong's on an island somewhere. So I don't know if that's a thing. I know King Kong also, at least in like standard King Kong stories, is often like taken places as like an exhibit. Like, look at this freakishly large gorilla, you know? So that's a possibility too. How would King Kong end up in this universe is an interesting question. Huh. Oh, wow. Because they can't just serendipitously cross paths. Maybe maybe they do check. Maybe they do check and they find out Godzilla's still alive and they take Godzilla to a different island where King Kong happens to be.
Cool.
I don't know.
Okay, we'll see.
I'm fascinated. I can't wait. That's one of the reasons I'm so excited is to figure out how the fuck these two monsters end up crossing paths.
Yeah. Oh, this movie is fucking fun as shit. I think we're both kind of a blast with this one.
Cool.
Do you think any other kaiju are going to show up other than Kong?
I don't think so. I think that would,
just the two of them.
I think for this, it's just going to be the two of them. I mean, that is the spectacle.
Yeah. I mean, it is the first time there has been a blank versus Godzilla or Godzilla versus blank movie. You know, I know Anguirus was there, but like, you know, it was a little different situation.
You watch your mouth. But yeah, I think that is the spectacle. I don't think there are any other kaiju in this one.
Yeah. I think that makes sense. Cool. Well, I'm excited to see how these predictions do or don't come to fruition. I will say there's some weirdness with this is another situation where there's some weirdness with the American versus Japanese cuts. In this case, like the American version does have some like added scenes to it, but it's really like the Japanese version is kind of a lot harder to find. Like I've only seen the English version, like Criterion Collection.
Oh, wow.
Only has the English dub just for some weird rights issues. Huh. So we'll see if we're able. I'm sure that we can probably find it like, you know, not legally somewhere to watch it. It'll be fine. But it'll be up to you if you want to watch both versions or not. Gotcha. In this case,
not one of those scenarios where it is like detrimental to watch both versions.
I don't think so.
Or that we would dedicate any time to a separate version.
Right. Well, I don't know, because it'll be a conversation for that one, because either way, I've only seen the English version and I loved it, so I
sure,
it'll be fine either way.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. But I'm excited for that. So stay tuned. If you would like to follow everything that we're doing with Screonk, I think the best place to do that would be the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. That is our collective made up of queer creators who talk about media. Lots of great shows always going on there.
Ooh, yeah.
Glitterjaw.com. We also have a Twitter, Facebook, and Blue Sky at Glitterjaw and an Instagram at GlitterjawPods. Recently, I don't know if this will be the most recent episode as of this episode drops, but as of recording, Are You My Mother just released a really cool episode on Final Fantasy VII, which was a wild concept of doing Jenova for Final Fantasy VII, and that like looking at Jenova from the perspective of being a mother. It is a fascinating, absolutely fascinating conversation about that. So if you're into just queer people like us talking about stuff like Godzilla or like Final Fantasy, among many other things, definitely check out glitterjaw.com or on any of those socials. But otherwise, Doug, where can people find you?
You can find me all over the place at Ikkybooley, ICKYBOOLEY. You can also find me on another Glitterjaw show called Novel Gaming, where my co-host Katie and I get together and catch up on all the books and video games we have been consuming lately.
Cool. And you can find me on Twitter at Derek B. Gale and on other platforms under that name or Dare Bear, Mr. Dare Bear. You can find me on a podcast I do with Doug with Glitterjaw called Walloping Web Snappers, where we do deep dives into every Spider-Man cartoon ever made. You can also find me on Gimmicks, where my co-host David and I look at the high concept, experimental, structure breaking, gimmicky episodes of television. And you can also find my Twitch at Mr. Dare Bear, where I stream VHS recordings of old television airings with the original commercials. And if I don't have enough things to plug, I'll also plug, this is relevant to Godzilla fans. I do a Toku Thursday show with my friend Chris on his Twitch channel, Sci-Fi Explosion. The next one coming out will be on January 18th, and we just stream random Toku episodes. Stuff that's well known, some are things that maybe you've never seen or heard of before. So definitely check that out at Sci-Fi Explosion on Twitch. You can also, I would say, join our Patreon at patreon.com/wallopingwebsnappers. That is, of course, our Spider-Man show, but everything that Doug and I do is supported by that Patreon, and we do plan to do some fun Godzilla-themed bonus episodes throughout this year. So if you want to support this show, easiest thing to do, as little as $1, you can support our Walloping Web Snappers Patreon and get some fun Godzilla extra content as well. You can check out our Discord for Walloping Web Snappers. There's a link to that in our show notes, and there is a Screonk channel for that if you want to chat about Godzilla stuff specifically. We do have a Screonk email at screonkpodcast@gmail.com, and you can also rate, review, and subscribe to the show on all podcast platforms, which is very helpful for a new little show like us. Next month, like I said, we're jumping back to the Showa era. For the first time, Godzilla is seen in color, the first time a movie is just a little bit silly, and the first time he fights another pre-existing kaiju in 1962's King Kong vs. Godzilla.
Can't wait.
See you then.
Bye.